Well, from big beasts to two more big beasts. It's the Piers Pack, Talk TV contributor Adam Bolton, Talk TV presenter and leader of Reform UK, Richard Tice. Welcome, heavyweights. Did Stanley pass you on the way out? Or...
They said you were a cheat.
Yeah, I don't think so. I'm not taking that from them either. But no, it was a good interview. I like Stanley. Let's talk about Rwanda, Richard, because I do think this is a genuinely complicated issue. We're down to apparently 6 people are now on this flight, which makes it incredibly expensive, obviously. Does it even make it worth it if he's trying to prove this point? Does this prove anything?
I think what it proves, Piers, is the principle. The principle is whether or not the government, the elected government of the day, can carry out one of the key policies that it was elected on, which was to get Brexit done, which included taking back control of our borders. So I think it's really, really important that the plane goes. And we've been through not one, not two, 3 court processes in the UK, and yet the European Court of Human Rights seems to have decided it wants to interfere. Even if there's nobody on that plane, it should still go with the blessing of the domestic courts.
So here's my issue with it. I think what's going on the sea is unacceptable. It cannot just go on like this.
Exactly.
You can't have more and more boats and more people drowning. It's just not acceptable for us to look at that and think we do nothing. But I can't find it in my heart to think this is British to then take people, many of whom are genuine asylum seekers, albeit trying to enter the country illegally, but many of them have come from genuine war zones, that we simply say to them, right, we know you've come from Syria, we know you've come from Afghanistan, we know you come from Iraq, which we bombed, by the way, but what we're going to do, we're going to put you on the first plane to Rwanda.
Look, there are no good options. We all want to be somewhere else, which
but
is
you
no
feel
one's
comfortable
coming...
about that?
No, all of these are bad options. I think the government has tried, it's tried to work with France, everything else has failed, and essentially this is saying it's another last-ditch attempt. I also think here, Piers, that Rwanda's actually getting a very bad press by quite a lot of people here who may not know what they're thinking about. For example, the United Nations' own report recently said, and I'll just read it out, Rwanda's made notable strides toward improving people's lives. There's 130,000 refugees there. Rwanda has been impressive with progress. Rwanda's done an excellent job integrating refugees. It's built over 500 classrooms for 20,000
Well, look,
children.
as I mentioned last night, as an Arsenal fan, we have on our shirts, the players, visit Rwanda.
I think it's getting a very bad press.
OK, let's bring it out.
First of all, this is not about Rwanda. People say nice things about Rwanda. I've never been there because this is about people who came through Europe to Britain and who wanted to stay in Britain. So, you know, we ended deportation for criminals, I think, in the 19th century. So I think the whole idea of deporting people is, you know, to quote Prince Charles, appalling or shaming or ugly, as the Tory MP Jesse Norman says. But the real test is it going to work? Right? And that's where you've fallen for this. I mean, you're not a Tory. I know you've got your own party. But, you know, the fact is this is cruel gesture politics. Because they've got 6 people on the plane.
Yeah.
We know, contrary to taking back control of our borders, actually immigration is going up in this country, if that's what people are really concerned about. There are more people come in every day than they're even thinking of deporting to Rwanda. We know they've only prepared 76 places in Rwanda with the money that's been given so far. So this is not going to become and shouldn't become mass deportation.
Well, we also know this, Richard.
Richard,
let me put this to you, because it's just an interesting thing that I read about today. We found some information about it. So between 2014 and 2017, Israel operated a similar scheme, sending people to Rwanda and Uganda under a voluntary scheme. Migrants were given a choice to return to their own country or accept a payment of £2,700 and a plane ticket to East Africa, or go to jail if they stayed in Israel. Now, apparently a lot of people took the option of going to East Africa, but then left. and they actually migrated to other parts of Europe. So it didn't solve the problem.
That was then, this is now. I refer to what I just read out earlier in terms of the UN's own report. Amnesty International is more critical of Spain's performance with migrants and refugees, and indeed the UK, than it is of Rwanda. Ultimately, I think we're all agreed, we've got to have a deterrent to stop people coming across the channel. This may or may not work. My hunch is that it probably won't, because the odds, for the reasons you've just mentioned, of you actually going from the UK to Rwanda are remarkably low. You know, my preference, actually, is to keep working with the French and to have a joint arrangement where anybody who comes across the Channel is picked up safely, taken back to France. You have a joint processing centre, and they are promptly, rapidly processed.
OK, I mean, look,
but the French have resisted
but the
that
French
today.
are showing no inclination. The problem is we can't trust the French to do it properly.
But you have to try new things to act as a deterrent.
Yeah, what about Ukraine? So when the war in Ukraine happened, we suddenly have a massive influx of Ukrainians. Now, they're not entering illegally. Vast majority, they're coming here legally, but we are working very hard to process very quick asylum for these people.
Well, nothing compared to other European countries.
Right, but we're still doing it. What I mean is that our system seems to work fine with Ukrainians.
Well, this is what...
Why can't we get a better system
this
for
is what
people who are not coming from Ukraine?
This is what you hear from people like Nadim Zahawi, that there are ways to come in. Actually, if you're in Libya, if you're in Iran, if you're in Iraq, there aren't easy ways for you to apply and come in. So I'm not saying you should try and be illegal, but they are actually not telling the public the truth when they say it's easy for people to apply outside.
If we accept that the Rwanda thing probably isn't going to work, I don't think it will, but either way, if it's not doing something like that, something dramatic, we try and make a big deterrent statement. What should we do about stopping so many people risking their lives to come over on these dinghies?
Well, I agree with Richard. I think we should be working with other European countries, but of course, thanks to Brexit, we're not working with them.
Thanks to Emmanuel Macron, who's preventing that particular thing that I just suggested from taking place. That could happen with goodwill on the
Let me hear what Adam wants to do.
Because we've chosen to go to a menu where we think we can pick and choose rather than actually operate in alliance. And you know, people were told, OK, that's going to put up the drawbridge. And actually, through government incompetence, it hasn't put up the drawbridge. People are still coming in. And once they recognise and see that, I think the government's going to be in big problems because their supporters wanted that. And that is why they are doing this policy. This policy is a PR stunt to persuade people that they're dealing with immigration when they're not.